All right, let's just jump right in. We're about to unpack one of the most powerful and honestly misunderstood stories ever told, the Book of Job. It's this incredibly raw, ancient story that stares down one of the hardest questions humanity has ever asked.
And this is the question, isn't it? The one that keeps us up at night. This isn't some abstract thought experiment, it's about real, gut-wrenching pain. How do you make sense of a child getting sick? Or a natural disaster? Or maybe the personal grief that you yourself are walking through right now? Well, the Book of Job doesn't shy away from it. It runs right at it.
So first, let's meet our main character, Job. And to really feel the impact of his story, you have to understand just how good he had it. We're not just talking about a good guy. This man was the gold standard, living a life that was, by all accounts, perfect.
I mean, just look at these numbers. By ancient standards, Job was a mega billionaire. But it was more than the money. The text says he was blameless and upright. In fact, he was so dedicated that he would offer sacrifices for sins his kids might not have even committed, but just, thought about. Talk about covering all your bases. He was the poster child for the blessed life.
And then, boom, the scene dramatically cuts away from earth, up into the heavens, into God's divine counsel. And this is where we find out that Job's perfect little world hasn't gone unnoticed. It's about to become the centerpiece of a cosmic wager.
Now, this is a super important point. The figure we meet here isn't necessarily the devil with horns and a pitchfork from the New Testament. The original Hebrew is Hasatan, which isn't a name, it's a title. It means the accuser or the challenger. Think of him less as a villain and more like a celestial prosecutor whose job is to poke and prod and test the loyalty of humanity. So here's the challenge the accuser throws down in front of God. He basically says, look, the only reason Job is so good is because you've made his life so good. He's faithful because you've paid him to be. Take away all the blessings, he bets, and Job's faith will shatter and he'll curse you. And unbelievably, God agrees to the test.
And the fallout on earth is immediate, and it is absolutely brutal. In a single day, one messenger after another runs up to Job with horrifying news. First, raiders steal his livestock. Next, a freak fire from the sky wipes out his sheep. And then, the final, soul-crushing blow, a powerful storm hits the house where his kids are, and all 10 of them are gone. Just like that.
Now, in the face of a loss that would break any of us, Job's reaction is, well, it's just stunning. He doesn't raise his fist to heaven. He tears his robes, shaves his head in grief, and falls to the ground and worships. He passes the first test. The accuser was wrong.
But the accuser isn't finished. He comes back and says, well, sure, but a man will give up anything to save his own skin. So God allows the test to go to the next level. Now Job is hit with painful, agonizing sores from head to foot. His suffering becomes physical. He goes to sit in the town dump, literally a pile of burnt animal dung, and scrapes at his wounds. It gets so bad his own wife looks at him and says, just curse God and die, get it over with.
And just when you think it cannot possibly get any worse, his 3 best friends arrive. They come to comfort him, and for 7 days they do a pretty good job. They just sit with him in total silence. But then they open their mouths, and that comfort turns into a full-blown attack.
Job is the first to speak, and he doesn't curse God. He curses the day he was born. He wishes he'd never existed. And notice that weird name he brings up, Leviathan. He's talking about an ancient myth, calling on sorcerers to awaken a giant sea dragon to destroy the day of his birth. Now remember that name. It's not a throwaway line. It's the key to this entire book. So Job's friends, they all operate on one simple, tidy belief. The universe is a fair place. God rewards the good and punishes the wicked. So if you're suffering this badly, Job, you must have done something to deserve it. Eliphaz says his family was like a pride of wicked lions that got what was coming to them. Bildad calls him a hypocrite, and Zophar just straight up accuses him of being a greedy man getting his cosmic comeuppance. They are convinced he's hiding some secret, terrible sin. After chapter of this, Job had it. He is done defending himself to these guys. He knows he's not perfect, but he also knows, deep in his bones, that his punishment doesn't fit any crime he's committed. So he goes over their heads. He puts God on trial, demanding that the Almighty himself show up and tell him what he's done wrong. And then the unthinkable happens. A storm cloud gathers, a whirlwind forms, and a voice speaks directly to Job. It's God. But here's the thing. He doesn't give Job any of the answers he was looking for. He doesn't explain the bet with the accuser. Instead, God answers Job's questions with a tidal wave of his own. God starts with this haymaker of a question. He takes Job on a tour of the cosmos, asking if Job was there when he designed the universe. The point is just crushing. Job is accusing God of running the world unjustly, but Job doesn't have the first clue about how incredibly complex that world even is.
And the tour continues. God asks Job if he's the one who tells the sun when to rise or if he can command the ocean tides. He's pulling back the curtain to reveal a universe so vast, so intricate, so finely balanced, that Job's perspective suddenly seems very, very small.
Then, God zooms in from the cosmos to creation. He takes Job on this virtual safari, asking about wild animals that live completely separate from humanity. And the message here is so beautiful and profound. God is saying, Job, you feel alone and forgotten? I'm orchestrating everything. I know when a mountain goat gives birth on a cliffside nobody sees. I feed the lion cub. I see it all. And that, of course, includes you.
And this all builds to the climax of God's entire speech. He circles all the way back to that creature Job mentioned in his despair, the great and terrible Leviathan.
So what is Leviathan? It's not just some sea monster. In ancient thinking, it was the ultimate symbol of chaos, of disorder, of the violent, unpredictable danger that exists in God's good world. Leviathan is the cancer diagnosis. It's the car accident. It's the senseless tragedy. It's everything about life that is scary and untamable. Understanding what Leviathan represents is really the key to unlocking this whole book. And hey, if you're getting value from these explainers, taking just a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel really helps us bring you more deep dives just like this one.
And this is God's final devastating point. He says to Job, can you put a leash on Leviathan? Can you make it your pet? The answer is obviously no. God is saying that the chaos in the world is very real, but it's not out of control. It may look like random evil to you, but from His perspective, even the chaos is contained and serves a purpose in His design, a purpose way beyond what a human mind can grasp.
And hearing this, everything changes for Job. He doesn't get a tidy explanation for his pain. He gets something so much better. He gets a vision of God, a God who is so much bigger, so much wiser, so much more in control than he ever dreamed. He realizes he went from just knowing about God to truly knowing God.
And for many, the story of Job is a powerful echo of another innocent man who suffered. Jesus is also described as being tested by Satan, abandoned by his friends, and stripped of everything. The ultimate answer the Bible offers for suffering isn't an idea, it's a person. A God who doesn't watch pain from a distance, but actually enters into it and experiences it with us.
So in the end, Job never gets the answer to his question, why me? He gets something infinitely more profound. He gets a renewed relationship with the God who holds the universe together. The book's final message isn't a neat formula. It's an invitation to trust the character of God, even when, especially when, we can't see the reason why.
And that really leaves us with a question to sit with. The book of Job suggests that a world without chaos, without Leviathan, might not be a world where we can truly grow or love. Life doesn't come with a promise to be easy or predictable, but it does come with the promise of a God who has Leviathan on a leash. So the question for us is, how does trusting the one who's in control change how we face the chaos we can't?